Hello everybody, my name is Offbeat Outlaw. Welcome to Back to Power Building. Today I've got a really neat little piece of tech for you. Have you ever wanted to do more damage than you currently can? Have you ever just wished that you could do it all in one hit? You hate rolling those pesky attack rolls. You hate missing half of them and then capping your damage. You just wish you could one and done get it over with. Well, look no further, because I have made you something that, well, might just tickle your fancy. May I introduce to you Big Boom, or as some may like to call him, Wackus Bunkus. I really like this. Here's his hero forge that I made for him. Look how menacing he is. I wanted to make him look like the wrath of the sun was about to be thrown upon you with his mighty hammer. But yes, this is Big Boom. What does Big Boom do? Well, you may be surprised. He does big damage. And how he does this is, well, simple. It's really satisfying. I've actually made two builds for this, and I'm going to discuss both of them because they both do a rather similar amount of damage. Let's get into it. This is a version with Fighter 3, Cleric 10, Paladin 2, Warlock 5. Warlock being Hexblade, Cleric 10, we're going Grave Domain Cleric for this, and with our Fighter, doesn't really matter, Battlemaster will work. Battlemaster will work. I would suggest Eldritch Knight for more spell slots, and Paladin, we don't have a subclass on that. So how do we do big damage? Well, it's quite simple, honestly. Grave Domain Cleric has a really cool class feature. It is their Channel Divinity Path to the Grave. You can use this Channel Divinity as an action to curse one creature you can see within 30 feet of you until the end of your next turn. The next time you or an ally of yours hits the cursed creature with an attack, the creature has vulnerability to all of that attack's damage and the curse ends. Now this feature is very interesting. It is very good. One of the best channel divinities in the game, in my opinion, if not my favorite. I have a soft spot for Tempest Domain, being able to just deal max damage while only really working out to about a 1.5 times boost to damage. It's still just cool. That's all I really care about. This Path to the Grave feature gives vulnerability. Now, if you don't know what vulnerability is, vulnerability to a damage type means that you take double damage from that damage source. And because you're vulnerable to all damage, that means all of the damage on the next hit is going to deal a shitload of damage. Now, we have Fighter, so obviously that means we're going to be action surging. Who do you think I am? I'm the action man. That's not actually what I am. I don't know why I said that. But yes, we're going to be action surging on top of that. Let's just get, these are our Cleric class features. Let's scroll all the way to Fighter. Where are ya? Action surge. You can take one additional action on your turn. This can be used one time per short rest. We're going to be using this action to cast a spell. What spell in particular? Booming Blade, but not before we cast another spell. We first are going to be casting with our 6th level spell slot, Branding Smite. This is a bonus action to cast. You cast it on your blade, and now your next hit will deal an extra 6d6 damage. Now, because this was a theory build, I just wanted to see how much damage you could do. In theory, I've put on Great Weapon Master. In practice, I would suggest upping your wisdom score instead of getting this feat. But, you know, we can't all be winners, so. Use your maul or your greatsword that you'd like. I chose a maul because big hammer go funny bonk bonk. We use Great Weapon Master to take a -5 on your attack roll, meaning it's harder to hit, but if you hit, you can add +10 to the attack's damage. And now, we attack. You hit with Booming Blade. This means that you'll deal 2d6 plus 3d8. Let's just quickly add that here in our D&D Beyond. On top of this, the modifier is going to be +6 +10, so +16. Now on top of that, we also, in our features and traits, if we look down to our Warlock class features, we have the Pact Boon, Pact of the Blade, and the Eldritch Invocation, Eldritch Smite. If we use a Warlock spell slot, we can expend it to deal an extra 1d8 force damage, plus another d8 per level of the spell slot used, and knock the target prone if it's huge or smaller. So if we just go, we are a 5th level Warlock, meaning we have 3rd level Warlock Pact slots, so that is going to deal an extra 4d8. An extra 4d8 damage. On top of that, we have Branding Smite, which is 66, which we cast earlier. So we'll add an extra 6d6. So we're now at 7d8 plus 8d6. And now finally, with one of our 4th level spell slots for this attack, we're going to be using our Divine Smite. Divine Smite, in case you don't know, classic Paladin class feature, one of the best class features in the game. Divine Smite. When you hit with a melee weapon attack, which Booming Blade does, you can expend 1 spell slot to deal 2d8 extra radiant damage to the target, plus 1d8 for extra spell level higher than first, for a maximum of 5d8. So with a 4th level spell slot, we'll be dealing that maximum. So now we are dealing 12d8 plus 8d6 plus 16 in damage. And remember, all of this damage is going to be doubled. We will be dealing double whatever we end up rolling, because they are now vulnerable to all damage from our channel divinity earlier. So let's just quickly roll this. Whackus, bonkus, go! That's a lot of dice. It's a lot of dice. So that is 94 plus 16. So 110 times 2, 220 damage in one single hit. That is a lot of damage to deal in one strike. Now, is this unheard of? No, there's actually a way to do this without even multi-classing. If you are a rogue, an assassin rogue, if the target is surprised, you can deal a similar amount of damage. There are ways to even deal more damage than what I've done here. But the reason why I chose this class is because I think that this class combo is the best at dealing this type of damage. Namely because it always works. There is not a scenario in which you can't do this. If you are ambushed, you cannot do the assassin rogue technique because they will not be surprised. You will be surprised. This technique will work regardless of when you go. You can be last in the turn order, first in the turn order. They can be surprised. They can be fully aware of your presence. You can use this on a boss, in the middle of nowhere, on a barn door if you so chose. But you can always use this technique. And I think that makes this class combo better at dealing single target, single hit damage than an assassin rogue. Because no matter the condition of your opponent, you will always be able to get this off at least once per fight. As most of this stuff you're gonna get back on a short rest. You don't get back on a short rest is your 6th level spell slot and your 4th level spell slot. However, you do get your action surge back, you do get your channel divinity back, and you do get your pact slots back. So this makes this class quite versatile in my opinion, because you won't be able to deal as much damage, but you'll still be able to, next fight, deal a big chunk of damage on the boss. Now, if I was to calculate quickly the average damage that we dealt, that deals an average of 196 damage in a single hit. I mentioned earlier that there is actually a build that can do this, that does slightly more damage, and there is. Let me quickly pull up that character. This character is 13 Warlock, 2 levels in Cleric, 3 Fighter, 2 Paladin. This focuses more on your Warlock stuff. And the reason why this does slightly more damage is because of the slight increase in damage to your pact slots. So you'll use all 3 of your 5th level pact slots for Branding Smite, Eldritch Smite, and Divine Smite. 14 d8 plus 7 d6 plus 21, because we also have the Life Drinker Eldritch Invocation. Life Drinker allows the following. When you hit a creature with your pact weapon, the creature takes an extra 5 necrotic damage. So it's just a little bit more damage on top of that. This deals, let's just quickly roll it for funsies. 81 plus 21 times 2. 204. This actually did less than the other one, but this one on average will deal more, because this deals 217. So the increase in damage is about 20 extra damage on average from this method. However, you are actually mostly entirely out of resources at this point. You have spent it all. And for this, you have your Mystic Arcanum still, meaning you can still do stuff on your subsequent turns. But I would personally argue that this build is not as good as the Cleric version, because the Cleric version, you can still help out your teammates. And this is due to the position that I think this build is in the power building meta. It's not a class that if you're going to be making a single target damage character, this should not be your DPS. This should not be your damage per round character. This guy is to either single out a lesser enemy, like a mini boss or a helper enemy in a boss fight, and get them out of the picture, and then it's to make sure everybody and everybody is okay around you. You can still do a good chunk of single target damage, but your damage per round guy should be focusing down the boss. This guy is to clean up around those characters, or perchance at the beginning of a fight to just be like, boom, massive hit, you have significantly less health now. Though that is better accomplished by other classes, is what I'm trying to get across. So while this class does a lot of damage in a single hit, I don't think the purpose of this class is damage per round. You pair this with other characters in order to keep them up, keep them alive, and make sure that and keep enemies off of them. If there's a mini boss coming their way, boom, smack them out of there, get rid of them in one hit. If there's other things walking towards you, use some of your cleric spells to ensure that they don't get close. That is, in my opinion, the purpose of this build. But just like high key, can we just appreciate for a moment how fucking cool this guy looks? Holy shit. Look. Just look at those eyes. Look at that hammer, man. Just pure menace. Pure menace. Thank you guys so much for watching this power build. This has been doing big damage one hit. If you want to see this class, if you want to see the character sheet for this class and have it for yourself, and potentially get to look at the Hero Forge more often, the links to both of this are on my Patreon. So if this interests you, please subscribe to my Patreon. Also, my patrons get all of my content 24 hours early. So please, if you can, support the Patreon, support the channel. Yeah, that's it. If you like this, share this with your DM to be like, hey, say goodbye to your mini boss. And with that, get the fuck out of my house.